Hello everyone, welcome to Primetime Recaps. Today, I'm going to be explaining a movie titled Miracle in Cell Number 7, released in the year 2019. Warning, spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie opens up with a girl named Ova. She is looking in the mirror while wearing her wedding dress. She then suddenly stops her makeup and listens to the news being broadcast in the background, which states that the death penalty is finally being removed from the Turkish constitution. It also mentions that the last time the death penalty was carried out was in the year 1984. Hearing this, Ova pulls the drawer of the dressing table and takes a closer look at the metallic cigarette box. The next scene then opens with a flashback from the year 1983 where Ova is a child and gets praised for good work by her class teacher, Mine. After school, Ova runs to her father Memo, an autistic patient. As Memo behaves like a small child, Ova's classmates make fun of him, but they are cautioned by Mine. On their way back home, Ova notices a red Hades bag inside a shop. She asks her father to get it for her, but when Memo checks the amount of money he has, he becomes aware that it's not enough. Regardless, he promises his daughter that he'll get the bag for her soon. Later on, while Memo is looking after his cattle, Ova asks her grandmother, Nene, why her father is different from others. Nene replies that Memo has the mind of a child and that Ova should be wary of those who try to make fun of him. The following morning, Nene and Memo prepare a basket of sweet apples to sell at the parade happening during the day. Nene reminds him that their main aim is to sell as many apples as they can so as to get the Hades bag for Ova. Soon after, Ova and Memo arrive at the market where the parade is going to take place. Meanwhile, the army generals present their greeting each other while another group is marching to the place. As they march, an army officer pretends to tie his shoelaces, and as the group goes forward, he runs away from there. Moments later, the parade begins and Ova also takes part in it. Memo starts selling his popsicle apples and earns enough money to buy the bag for Ova. After the parade is over, Memo and Ova run to the shop to buy the bag, but unfortunately, the bag has already been sold to an army general's daughter, Saya, as the bag was the last piece in stock. Memo begs the army general Aiden to give the bag to his daughter but gets hit when he tries to pull the bag from Saya. The next scene opens with Aiden enjoying a picnic with his family and friends near a lake where Memo is looking after his sheep. Saya, carrying the same backpack, comes in front of Memo and asks him to follow her to the rocks present on the bank of the river. Saya reaches on top of a big rock and realizes the danger ahead of her. Memo tries to stop her. Sadly, Saya slips and bangs her head on one of the rocks before falling into the river. This causes Memo to jump into the river in an attempt to save her. At the picnic, Saya's mother realizes that Saya is not around, and when she asks the other kids about her, the kids tell her that they saw her playing with Memo. Aiden hears this and decides to look for his daughter. Memo on the other hand brings Saya out of the water, but regrettably she's already dead. Aiden and his group arrive there and take Memo into custody, blaming the death of Saya on him. Afterwards, Memo is brought to the police station, beaten badly, and is compelled to confess to the crime. Aiden also meets with Memo alone and exhausts his anger by beating him up all the more. Nene and Ova arrive outside the police station where they are informed that Memo has been arrested for killing a little girl. In distress, Nene walks to the officers and tries to make them understand that Memo cannot be the one who committed the crime, but they didn't pay attention to her. Thus, Nene and Ova wait the whole night outside the station, hoping that the police officers will leave. The next morning, Ova tries to enter the station to meet her father, but is stopped by the guards. Memo is forced to enter a police car and is taken away from the place. On his way, he notices Ova and tells her that a one-eyed monster saw everything about what happened in the lake. Hearing this, Ova tells Nene that the one-eyed monster means an abandoned fort near the river and that she's sure her father is trying to tell her something. Quickly, Ova rushes towards the fort. Memo is brought to the prison and the officer, Farouk, who brought Memo there, instructs the warden of the prison Nail to treat Memo very strictly. In the next scene, Ova reaches the fort and finds the runaway soldier Asker, preparing the place to hide. She approaches him and asks him if he saw the accident that happened with her father in the river. Asker replies that he saw everything and also mentions that her father is innocent as he was just trying to save the girl. Ova, excited about hearing this, asks if she could bring Nene to hear this from him. After Asker agrees, Ova leaves to get Nene. Memo is taken to a cell where he's confronted by other prisoners. Askerazlu, who is one of the prisoners, asks the guard about Memo's crime, and despite the warden refusing to share the information, the guard tells Askerazlu what Memo did. Later on, when Memo is preparing his bed, Askerazlu sits with his prison mates and tells them about Memo. They immediately become enraged and beat the innocent man mercilessly. Ova later takes Nene to the fort, but they did not find Asker in his hiding place. Back in the cell, after seeing the critical condition of Memo, Nail suggests to transfer him to another prison, but Aiden objects firmly. He mentions that he wants Memo to get hanged for his crime and also orders the prisoners inside Memo's cell not to touch him. In the cell, Askerazlu is the one who everyone obeys. Surprisingly, Askerazlu admires Yusuf, who keeps on looking at a strange stain on the wall. Hafiz is another prisoner who gives life lessons to others, while Salem is the prisoner who doesn't care about anything happening around him. 10 days after, Ova is still hopefully waiting for the soldier to return to the fort and tell everyone the truth about the accident. Ova's class teacher, Mine, arrives there and asks her the reason she has missed school. After knowing about her father, she promises to take Ova to meet Memo if she agrees to regularly attend school. In the courtroom, Memo is found guilty and hence, given the death penalty. Everyone is devastated to hear this, even his prison mates. Soon, when Mine brings Nene over to meet with Memo, the prison guards forbid them following the orders of Aiden. Luckily, Nail notices Mine, and after he finds out that Memo has a daughter and a mother, he agrees to help them. As they wait, Ova goes to the walls of the prison where she starts calling out her father's name. Memo hears his daughter's voice and rushes to the yard. When Ova tells him that the one-eyed monster saw everything, he is ecstatic. However, sadly, the prison guards arrive there and take Ova and Memo away from the wall. While this is ongoing, the cellmates witness the innocent behavior of Memo in the way he loves his daughter and come to the conclusion that he is innocent. They also want Memo to meet his daughter before his death penalty. Hence, the prisoners start to take good care of Memo and accept him as a member of their group. Later that night, when Askerazlu is nearly attacked by another prisoner holding a knife, Memo saves Askerazlu. This surprises Askerazlu and he decides to repay the favor by sneaking Ova inside the prison and surprising Memo. The next day, Askerazlu speaks with his contact from outside the prison and requests him to sneak a little girl inside. Moments later, the contact brings Ova and Askerazlu's wife to the prison and makes Ova stand near a door while Askerazlu makes it clear to his doubtful wife that Ova is not his daughter. Ova is pulled inside from the door and brought to the prison room in a cart. After entering the cell, Ova slowly steps out of the carton and greets her father. Memo is in shock as he has a hard time believing that Ova is actually standing in front of him. He hugs her tight and Ova tells him about the soldier she met at the fort. Back at home, Nene searches for Ova all around the house, and when she fails to find her, she gets a heart attack and dies. Soon after, Askerazlu arrives at the cell and finds out about the witness who can prove Memo innocent. He praises Ova's smartness and tells her that her time at the prison is over and she must go back home now. However, Memo and Ova do not want to get separated. On seeing this, Askerazlu tells Ova that Memo is sick and needs to take a rest, promising her that he will be home as soon as he becomes well. Thus, Ova asks everyone about their illness, and one by one the prisoners tell Ova about their crimes representing them as diseases. Ova approaches Yusuf and on seeing him staring at a stain on the wall, she deduces that the stain resembles a dream. This brings back memories for Yusuf. Yusuf is overwhelmed that Ova is the first one who found out about his visions. In fact, Yusuf had killed his own daughter and buried her under a big tree. While the group is conversing with Ova, Nail arrives there after getting information that little girl has infiltrated the place. Everyone tries to hide Ova, but the innocent Memo reveals that Ova is hiding under the bed. Enraged, Nail yells at the prisoners for breaking the rules of the prison and mentions that they will be punished. When Nail tries to leave, Ascarazlo stops him and asks him to help Memo prove his innocence. He also tells him about Askar and requests Nail to find him and save Memo's life. Ascarazlo further tells Nail that he cannot trust anyone other than him as he believes that he always stands for the truth. Later on, Nail asks Ova about Askar and takes her to the fort. There, Ova meets Mine, who tells her about Nene's death. Meanwhile, Nail speaks with the local people and searches the fort. After investigation, he finds a rifle hidden behind the rocks and deduces that Ova is telling the truth. Later, Nail asks for help from one of the army officers, Farouk, but he refuses to help him owing to the fact that the case is related to the army general Aiden and he's scared of losing his job. Regardless, Nail is still bent on finding the runaway soldier Askar in order to prove Memo's innocence. In the next scene, the prisoners are being visited by their family members after a long time. They accept that Memo has made them realize the importance of their family. Mine talks with Nail and gets to know that the prison has already received orders to prepare for the death sentence of Memo. Ova is also talking with Memo inside the prison room, where he starts crying after she tells him about the death of Nene. Shortly after, Askar is finally found and brought to the prison. He tells everything about the incident to Farouk, and the latter immediately rushes to Nail and informs him about it. Unfortunately, one of the prison guards goes to Aiden and informs him about the witness being found. Aiden then orders the guards to bring the witness to him. When Askar starts telling everything about the accident, Aiden shoots him and kills him instantly. When Nail and others arrive there, Aiden tells them the Askar was again trying to escape, so he shot him to death. The following day, Ova is brought to the prison to meet with Memo, but she does not know that it's her last chance to be with her father. Memo also tries to control himself, but after some time breaks down, saying that he does not want to die and leave his daughter behind. Eventually, Memo is separated from Ova and is brought back to prison. Later at night, when it's time for his execution, he greets his cellmates goodbye and is taken outside for execution. Nail and the other prison officers are devastated, but there's barely anything they can do but watch Memo being executed. The following day, Farouk and Nail come to visit Ova and hand her a metal cigarette box. Here, Nail starts telling Ova about a plan he and the other prisoners made some days before to save Memo. The scene flashes back to the time where Yusuf mentions that he saw his daughter in his dream and he wants to save Memo by sacrificing himself. Ascarazlo intimates Nail about this, and together they make a plan to swap Memo for Yusuf. Yusuf then says goodbye to his cellmates and leaves the metal cigarette box before he's taken away for execution. In the last scene, Ova reunites with Memo. Nail and Farouk also help Ova and Memo to go away from the country, by sneaking them away in a boat. The movie ends with a grown-up Ova, looking at the metal cigarette box and appreciating the huge sacrifice that Yusuf made for her and her father. I hope you liked the movie. Please turn on the bell icon to be the first to watch our videos when we post contents like this. You can also suggest a movie you would love us to explain in the comments section. Thanks for watching.